In tonight's story, you are Alexander the Great. The year is 331 BCE. The desert winds of Mesopotamia whisper through your silk war tent. Tomorrow you will face the might of Persia at Gaugamela. But tonight, the stars burn above you, calm, eternal, as you walk among your men, your memories, and your destiny. As you drift into this tale, breathe deeply, relax, let the stillness of ancient earth cradle your thoughts. If you enjoy stories like this, leave a like and let us know in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is over there. We'd love to hear from you. Now close your eyes and let the world of empires carry you. You're born beneath a wide northern sky, the clouds swept in like sails from the Aegean, and the hills of Macedon rising sharp and green all around. Your cradle is not in a cottage, but a palace. Stone walls sun-warmed and streaked with the scent of pine resin and crushed laurel. You do not know it yet, but the world already expects something from you. From the moment of your first breath, you're not simply a child. You are a prince. You are Alexander. Your mother Olympias whispers old stories to you when the moon is high. Not the soft tales other children are told, but chants and rituals passed down from the priests of Epirus, bloodline of Achilles, son of Peleus. She's no ordinary queen. Her eyes are the colour of rain-polished granite, her voice a stream that cuts stone. She burns incense when she speaks to the gods, and sometimes snakes coil at her ankles. She tells you that you are descended from Heracles through your father, and from Zeus himself through her. You believe her. How could you not? She holds herself like someone who cannot be disobeyed, even by Olympus. Your father is different. Philip II, king of Macedon. He does not light incense or offer prayers. He rides stallions too wild for other men, and returns from battle blooded and smiling. His leg is crooked from a wound in youth. He limps when he walks, but the limp only makes him seem more solid, more feared. He commands armies as easily as other men raise a cup. You watch him from the palace steps, your small hands gripping the marble ledge as he trains the phalanx below, rows of men with spears glinting in the sun, 1,000 feet striking the earth in unison like a heartbeat. You're 5 when you first ride alone, your fingers wrapped tight in a pony's mane, your legs too short to control him well, but your jaw already set with something unchildlike. You fall once, maybe twice, but you do not cry. That is not allowed in the house of Philip. Your father watches from the balcony and says nothing. Only later do you see that he left a mark in the wooden rail where his fingers gripped as you stumbled. He was ready to run, but he didn't. You passed his test. By 6 you are learning letters and numbers. By 7, sword drills in the morning and long walks with tutors in the evening, but it is never enough. You feel it in your chest, a restlessness that won't settle, a flame that licks at your ribs no matter how many books you read or how many hours you spend staring into the fire. You're too young to name it, but already you hunger for something beyond the walls of Pella, something that no tutor or warrior can give you. And then he comes, Aristotle. They say he is the wisest man in the Greek world, a philosopher who studied under Plato himself. He arrives not in a chariot or with a guard, but simply with scrolls in his arms and a mind sharper than any blade. He kneels when he first meets you, not in submission, but in acknowledgement of what you might become. He teaches you not just how the world works, but how to see it. You study the stars from the palace roof, your cloak wrapped tight against the wind as he traces patterns with his hands. He speaks of elements, earth, water, air, fire, and the balance between them, of ethics and virtue and the purpose of a good man. You ask too many questions, but he never scolds you. He encourages it. He gives you Homer's Iliad, and you clutch it as if it were a sword. That night by lamplight you read of Achilles, beautiful, unstoppable, doomed. You feel something shift inside you. You're not like other boys. You never were. And now you have a name to model yourself after. The palace grounds become your kingdom. You climb walls. You sneak into the stables to brush the coats of war horses. You spar with older boys, your lip blooded more often than not, but your strikes growing quicker, smarter. When you lose, you grit your teeth. When you win, you learn to do so quietly. Your mother tells you not to trust anyone but her. Your father tells you to trust no one at all. At 12, you meet the creature who will carry you through legend. Bucephalus, a black horse, wild-eyed and snarling, too large and too proud for any man to tame. He kicks at grooms and breaks the reins of seasoned handlers. Your father watches from a distance, already waving the trainer away. The horse is a lost cause, but you step forward. You notice something others missed. The beast is not angry, merely frightened, spooked by its own shadow. You turn him toward the sun, where no darkness falls across his eyes. And in that moment, he stills. You climb onto his back. The crowd gasps. He bucks once, twice, but you stay, and then you ride. Across the field, through dust and wind, your cloak flapping like a banner behind you. When you return, your father is quiet. Then he kneels and places his hand on your shoulder. "My son," he says, "you must find a kingdom big enough for your ambition. Macedon is too small." You never forget those words. Years pass. Your training deepens. You read philosophy and poetry by candlelight, then wake before the sun to drill with spears and javelins. You learn how to kill a man in silence, how to hold a gaze without blinking, how to enter a room and leave with everyone wondering what you're thinking. You do not always agree with your father. He is bold, but crude. A builder of empires, yes, but you seek more than conquest. You seek legacy. You will not just take lands, you will unite them, enlighten them. Still, you watch him. You watch how he charms nobles and terrifies enemies. You study his maps, his speeches, the way he holds council with generals and always leaves them convinced it was their idea. You see how loyalty is built, not through fear alone, but through vision. One night, there is a banquet. Wine flows, torches blaze. You sit beside your father, older now, your shoulders beginning to fill with muscle, your eyes steady. A guest raises a toast, calling your father the greatest of all Greeks. Then he adds, too casually, that Alexander is merely his shadow. You stand. The hall goes quiet. You say nothing. You look at the man until he looks away. And then you sit. That silence is louder than any outburst. Your name is carried in the mouths of soldiers, in the corridors of the palace, in the minds of those who watch you walk, tall for your age, with the gait of someone already halfway to legend. By the time you're 14, you're commanding a regiment in battle, not in training, not in jest, a real skirmish. Thracians near the northern border, you ride out in armour that still creaks at the joints and raise your spear in the morning mist. You feel fear, real fear, but it does not master you. Instead, it sharpens your mind. You move with instinct, with precision. Your men follow, and when the enemy scatters, it is your name they chant. Not Philip, Alexander. But victory does not bring peace. It brings new eyes, new enemies. You learn that even in a palace, power is not permanent. That family can be stranger than war. Your father remarries, a younger queen, a Macedonian noblewoman. There is talk of new heirs, of sons not born of Olympias. At the wedding banquet, a general raises his cup and toasts the unborn child. A true Macedonian, finally. Your blood burns, you throw your goblet. Wine and gold splash across the table. You shout, not as a boy, but as a prince wronged. Your father rises, red-faced, drunk. He draws his sword and stumbles. Falls. Silence. You leave the hall that night, you and your mother both, exiled from court. You spend months in Illyria, in Epirus, away from your birthright. But exile cannot dim the flame in your chest. If anything, it feeds it. You train harder, study longer, And you wait, because you know, someday soon, the crown will come. You're 16 when word reaches you. Your father has called you back, not as punishment, as regent. He marches east, and you rule in his stead. For the first time, Macedon bows to you, and you realise something. You were never meant to inherit a kingdom. You were meant to create one. Even now, as the torches flicker in your chamber, and the wind carries the smell of pine across the palace courtyard, you feel it. The world beyond these mountains is waiting. Persia, Egypt, India, names that hang in your dreams like stars just beyond reach. You will reach them, but for now, you close your eyes. You let the stone walls of Pella hold you. The boy of Macedon is nearly gone, and the man the world will never forget is nearly here. You're 18 years old when the air in Macedon begins to taste different. There is something brittle in it now, something sharp beneath the warm breezes of spring. The palace stones still shine with the polish of wealth and conquest, but you can sense it. A fracture, not a loud one, a crack that runs beneath the surface, beneath the ceremonies and banners, beneath the voices of men who swear loyalty with their mouths, while their eyes drift elsewhere. You're no longer the child watching from balconies. You walk the corridors as regent now. When your father left to campaign in the north, he left Macedon in your hands. Not his queen, not his generals, you. And though the court smiled, you noticed how quickly the guards adjusted their postures around you, how quickly servants bowed more deeply, how even the older men began choosing their words more carefully in your presence. You held power, not borrowed, not symbolic, actual power. And you used it. You crushed a rebellion in Thrace with precision. You founded your first city, Alexandropolis, though the name embarrassed you slightly as if it were premature. Still, it stood, a mark of order, of control. Your father returned to find the realm not merely intact, but strengthened. The message was quiet but clear. You did not need him to rule. He did not say anything. He did not need to. You could feel the weight of his regard. For the first time, he no longer looked at you as a son. He looked at you as a rival. You had spent your life studying power from him, how it was gathered, how it was kept. Now you studied the more delicate art, how it is lost. Your father had become restless in his victories. Greece was tamed, the north subdued. He turned his gaze eastward toward Persia. He spoke often of the campaign, of Darius III, of Asia's wealth, of vengeance for Xerxes' invasion. The old war between East and West still simmered in his blood. He planned to lead the greatest army ever assembled across the Hellespont. But as the war plans grew, so too did his court. He welcomed ambassadors from far lands, added new wives to his household, and filled the palace with voices you did not recognize. One voice in particular grew louder. Attalus, uncle to Philip's new Macedonian bride, Cleopatra Eurydice. A powerful general, ambitious, proud. You had seen the way he looked at your mother, with scorn, with a barely veiled contempt for her Epirot blood. You had seen the way he looked at you, not as the heir, but as the obstacle. Your mother warned you. Her instincts were keen, sharper than any blade. She no longer walked the palace as a queen, but her influence was undiminished. She understood the shifting tides of loyalty, how the court bent around favour and fear. She reminded you that you were still not fully secure, that so long as you did not control succession, you were vulnerable. The wedding of your father to Cleopatra Eurydice was lavish. Macedonian nobles poured in from across the realm. Wine flowed, music echoed through the halls. You stood there, composed, watching, as your father celebrated the birth of a new alliance, one that did not include you. Your mother was absent. Her seat at the feast stood empty, a silent protest. But yours did not. You attended, because absence was a weakness, and you had already learned that visibility was strength. That night left a mark not just on your memory, but on the perception of everyone who watched. It was a night of tension, of subtle gestures, of eyes darting between you and the king. And though no swords were drawn, the war for the future of Macedon had begun in silence. Still, your father's campaign plans continued. He prepared to take command of the League of Corinth's forces, a united army of Greece. He even secured the nomination to lead the war against Persia. The momentum was building. The army was swelling. The generals murmured of glory. Everything pointed east. And then it ended. The day began like any other. The city of Egi, ancient capital of the Argead dynasty, bustled with preparation. It was a time of games, of festivals to the gods. Your father arrived dressed in ceremonial white, unarmoured, as was tradition during religious processions. The royal guards flanked him but loosely. He waved to the crowds. He entered the theatre. What happened next would echo through history. As he approached the stage, a man broke from the crowd. A young noble, Pausanias of Orestis, a former companion, trusted, trained, familiar. He ran forward before anyone could react and drove a blade into your father's ribs. One strike, then another, and your father, the unbreakable king of Macedon, collapsed onto the stones. The assassin tried to flee. He almost made it. But your father's own bodyguards chased him down and killed him before he could speak. The king was dead. You heard the news in a chamber nearby. A whisper first, then a scream, then 1,000 footsteps echoing on marble floors. Time fractured. For a moment, the world was still, as if Olympus itself paused to watch what you would do. You did not weep. You moved. You gathered your companions, men who had trained with you, bled with you, Hephaestion, Ptolemy, Perdiccas. You locked down the palace, secured the treasury, rode straight to the army encampment where the soldiers waited in confusion. You did not give them time to divide. You appeared before them, young, calm, armour half-laced, the dust of the road still on your cloak, and you spoke, not as a boy, not as a son, but as a king. You did not beg their loyalty, you claimed it, and they gave it, not all at once, not without hesitation, but enough did, enough to silence the rest, enough to steady the course of the realm before the vultures could gather, and they were gathering. Attalus, the powerful general, uncle to your father's last wife, remained in Asia Minor with a substantial portion of the army. He did not send condolences. He sent orders. Orders that hinted at succession not passing through you, that hinted at new dynastic line, one that would be purely Macedonian, not mixed with Epirot blood, not burdened by Olympias. You responded with clarity. You sent assassins. Attalus was dead within weeks. There were whispers, of course, that your hand had reached too far, that your rise was too swift, too ruthless. But you did not explain. A king does not explain. A king acts. You returned to Ege to bury your father. The funeral was unlike anything the realm had seen. Horses were sacrificed. Gold poured into the pyre. Trumpets and choirs sang of Philip's victories, of his unification of Greece, of his ambition to challenge Persia. But as the flames rose, so too did your shadow. Men watched not just the smoke, but you, standing alone beside the fire, still and silent. Your father had built the stage, but the play now belonged to you. In the days that followed, you moved quickly. You executed potential rivals. You confirmed the loyalty of generals with gifts, land, and calculated warmth. You allowed the Greek city-states to believe they had a choice in acknowledging you. They did not. The League of Corinth, once bound to Philip, assembled again. They confirmed you, Alexander, as hegemon, as supreme commander of the war against Persia. You were 20 years old, and now the world began to turn. Yet even as power solidified around you, your thoughts returned to the moment of your father's fall, to the quiet of the theatre before the scream, to the crimson pooling on marble, to the fact that the assassin died before he could speak. Many said it was a personal feud, that Pausanias acted out of revenge, not politics, but you were not convinced. Your mother had hinted otherwise, whispered suspicions. suggested there were deeper currents. She had her own enemies, some of whom were now conveniently removed. Some believed she had orchestrated it. Others said it was your doing. You never confirmed, you never denied, because the truth mattered less than what the world believed. And the world believed in you. You were now the unchallenged king of Macedon, commander of the most disciplined army in the world, and heir to a campaign that would change the course of history. But in the quiet hours when the courtiers had gone and the torches burned low, you thought not of conquest to come, but of the shape your father's hand had left on your shoulder the day you tamed Bucephalus, of the way he looked at you that night, not as a child, but as a man. You had inherited more than a crown. You had inherited a burden, a dream, a rivalry that would now live only in your memory. You had studied your father all your life. Now it was time to surpass him. The maps of Asia waited, and the gods, if they were watching, had just leaned forward. You stand on the western shore of the Hellespont, where the waters shimmer silver beneath the morning sun, and the sea winds carry the smell of salt and victory. Behind you is all you have ever known: Macedon, Greece, the rocky lands of your father. Before you lies Asia, the Persian Empire, the legacy of Darius and Xerxes, the vast world your father dreamed of conquering, now yours to claim. You're just 22 years old, but your presence already commands silence. The soldiers wait behind you in disciplined ranks, over 40,000 strong. Macedonians, Thessalians, Greek allies, phalanxes polished to perfection, cavalry eager, siege engines prepared, a force greater than any that has crossed this water in generations. They follow not out of obligation, but out of belief. Belief in your lineage, in your fire, in the certainty that the gods have chosen you. Your fleet is ready. Triremes and supply ships stretch out across the strait like a necklace of wood and sail. The journey across is not long, just a few miles, but it is symbolic, more than a crossing of water. It is a passage into myth. Before stepping aboard, you perform the proper rites. You visit the tomb of Protesilaus, the first Greek said to fall in the Trojan War, and offer a garland. The ancients believed whoever landed first on the shore of Asia would die first. You do not dismiss the omen, you honour it, and then walk forward anyway. As your ship cuts through the waves, your eyes fix on the distant coast. The land rises gently from the waterline, hills of a low scrub and golden earth. But beyond it, Persia stretches like an empire of shadow. The cities, the palaces, the satraps, the armies. You think of the great kings, Cyrus, Cambyses, Darius, Xerxes. Their names still echo in the west. Their monuments still gleam in the desert sun. But they are ghosts now. Your ship is the first to reach the opposite shore. You disembark alone. You leap to the sand in full armour. You lift your spear, turn to face your men still sailing behind, and drive the weapon deep into the earth. This is your declaration. You claim Asia not as an invader, but as rightful heir. Shortly after, you make pilgrimage to the ruins of Troy. The journey inland is deliberate. You do not bypass the past. You walk through the remnants of walls once thought unbreachable, touch the stones said to have seen Achilles and Hector. You offer tribute at the tomb of Achilles himself. You run a foot race in his honour as tradition demands. In your heart he is more than a myth. He is your example, a warrior whose rage and glory are etched into the bedrock of Greek identity. His wrath destroyed cities, his death immortalised him. You have always sought to match him, to be remembered like him. You even exchange armour with a sacred relic, placing your own at the tomb and taking from it a shield said to carry echoes of the hero. Whether it is truly his matters less than what your men believe. And they believe. The Persians know you are coming. Word spreads faster than armies. The satraps of Asia Minor, governors of the great King Darius III, prepare for defence. They gather their forces at the river Granicus, a swift-flowing ribbon of water not far from the coast. The banks are steep, the current strong, and beyond it stands a Persian host waiting with cavalry, archers, and Greek mercenaries. The generals advise caution. The Persians have the high ground. Crossing under fire would be madness. You listen, you consider, and then you act. You order the advance. Your cavalry surges first, plunging into the river with splashes and war cries. The cold water bites, the mud clutches at hooves, arrows darken the sky. But your phalanx follows, shield by shield, step by step. The banks are steep, but your men climb them like wolves. Spears rise like teeth. The Persian cavalry rushes forward, and you meet them in the shallows. The fighting is close, brutal. Horses scream. Men fall into water and do not rise. You lead from the front, striking with spear and sword, drenched not just in sweat but in river and blood. A Persian noble rides straight for you, blade lifted. He swings. You duck. Another comes. You're surrounded. One of your companions throws himself in the path of a fatal blow. You feel the wind of death pass your cheek. But the line holds. The Macedonian phalanx crashes against the enemy like iron against bone. You break through. The Persians reel. The Greek mercenaries are surrounded and slaughtered. Victory. The river Granicus is yours, and the path to Asia Minor opens. In the weeks that follow, cities begin to surrender. Sardis, once a capital of Lydian kings, opens its gates. The Acropolis, mighty and ancient, is turned over without a fight. You do not plunder it. You order repairs. You confirm local officials. You respect traditions. And by doing so, you win more than battles. You win loyalty. You move swiftly along the coast, taking cities one by one. Ephesus, Miletus, Halicarnassus. Some welcome you, some resist. At Halicarnassus, the Persian commander Memnon fortifies the city, calling in reinforcements. The siege is long and difficult, but your discipline does not falter. You breach the walls. The defenders burn parts of the city as they retreat, but you hold firm. You prevent total destruction. You're not just a warrior, you're a ruler. You declare yourself protector of Greek cities. You abolish tyrannies where they exist. You reinstate democracies where appropriate, and you are careful, always, to distinguish your campaign from conquest. You are liberating these cities from Persian control, or so your proclamations say, but your banners still rise over their gates. Your coins begin to circulate. Your laws follow. As the campaigning season ends, you winter in the interior of Phrygia. In the highlands, cold and wind sting your face. But here you find a city called Gordium, ancient, sacred, and home to a legend, the Gordian knot. You remember the story, that whoever unfastens this impossibly complex knot will become ruler of all Asia. The knot binds a yoke to an old chariot. Many have tried to unravel it. None have succeeded. You walk into the shrine alone. You inspect the knot. There are no ends, no clear path, only endless loops of tightly wound rope, hardened by time. Some say you sliced through it with your sword. Others say you found a hidden end and undid it with cunning. You never clarify. Let the world decide what version suits you. But when you leave the shrine, the knot is gone, and Asia lies ahead. Spring returns, you push eastward, through the interior of Anatolia, across mountains and valleys. The Persian satraps withdraw. They do not challenge you directly. They rely on time, on distance, on attrition. But you adapt. You divide your forces. You take coastal cities to deny them ports. You send envoys to secure supplies from islands. You command not just armies, but networks. In the Cilician Gates, a narrow pass between towering mountains, you march with speed. The terrain is treacherous, the roads carved into cliffside. One misstep, and a soldier falls to his death. But your army moves like water through stone. The Persian forces under Darius himself had intended to block this route. But you reach it before them. You pass through and descend into Cilicia unopposed. Darius now knows your name not as rumour, but as threat. He gathers an army far larger than yours. Persian cavalry, archers, chariots, Greek mercenaries, tens of thousands more than you possess. He positions himself north of your line of march, near the small river of Issus. By fate or strategy, no one is quite sure which, Darius advances behind your position, cutting off your supply lines. He thinks he has you trapped, but you turn. You do not retreat. You face him. The Battle of Issus begins beneath a grey sky, with coastal hills to your left and the sea to your back. The river is shallow but wide, the ground narrow. It limits the Persian advantage in numbers. You anchor your line, adjust your flanks, and position yourself at the head of your cavalry. Darius sits on a golden chariot at the centre of his forces, a banner rising high with the image of Ahura Mazda. His guards gleam with bronze and silk. You charge. The fighting is vicious, closer than Granicus, more uncertain. The Persian centre surges. Their cavalry presses your right, but you hold. You ride straight for the Persian king, not randomly, not wildly, but with purpose. If you kill him, the army collapses. You break through his guard. His chariot turns. Darius flees. His army follows. Thousands die in the river, trampled or drowned. The plain runs red. His camp is captured. His family, wife, daughters, mother, fall into your hands. You do not harm them. You treat them with dignity, with respect. You know the world is watching. You do not seek cruelty. You seek legitimacy. You are now master of all Asia Minor. The cities that once defied you now send envoys. Their gates open without resistance. You march south toward Phoenicia, toward the coastal hubs that supply the Persian navy. Some surrender, like Byblos and Sidon. Others do not. Tyre resists, a city built on an island, fortified, proud. Its walls rise from the sea. No causeway connects it to the mainland. The Tyrians believe they are safe, that no army can reach them. You prove them wrong. You build a causeway. Stone by stone, timber by timber, across months. You bring in siege engines, ships. You convert merchant vessels into floating battering rams. The Tyrians fight fiercely, sending fire ships, launching missiles. But your engineers adapt. Your men persist. After 7 grueling months, you breach the walls. The fall of Tyre is brutal. 7,000 defenders die in the final assault. 2,000 more are crucified. 30,000 inhabitants are sold into slavery. It is not mercy. It is message. No city is beyond your reach. After Tyre, you march south into Egypt. But you do not find battle. You find welcome. The Persians had ruled Egypt for over a century, but their rule was never loved. You are greeted as liberator, as pharaoh. You visit Memphis. You offer sacrifices to the gods of the Nile. You consult the priests. You confirm local traditions. You are crowned in the traditional ceremony, wearing the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. Then you journey into the desert, to Siwa, to the Oracle of Amun, a temple far from the cities, nestled in an oasis, where the god speaks through priests. You travel across blinding sand through scorching heat, nearly lost in a storm, but you reach it. You enter alone. What the oracle says to you is never recorded in full, only that you were greeted as son of Zeus, that you emerged silent, thoughtful, changed. You do not deny it. You're no longer merely king. You're becoming divine. You leave Egypt with the scent of incense still clinging to your robes, with the Nile's calm silence still etched behind your eyes, and with a new title woven into the whispers of men, Pharaoh, son of Zeus Ammon. You are no longer merely a king of Macedon or commander of Greeks. You are something more. The temples have crowned you not with laurel, but with eternity. But your purpose has not changed. Persia still stands, and Darius still lives. So you turn your army northeast, away from the pyramids and papyrus fields, and begin the long, slow ascent through the Levant, back through Tyre, then across the great Euphrates. The year is 331 BCE. Summer presses down like a bronze weight. Dust rises in plumes with each marching step. The sun hardens the earth beneath your sandals, and the rivers shrink under the heat. But still, you press forward. Your army follows, not blindly, not mutely, but with a belief shaped over years of victory. Over 40,000 infantry, nearly 7,000 cavalry, veterans of Granicus, Issus, and Tyre, hardened by siege and desert and sea. They are not just soldiers now, they are the sinew of an empire in motion. As you march, word comes that Darius is gathering again, farther east near the Tigris River. This time he is not caught by surprise. He chooses the ground, a plain near a village called Gaugamela. Wide, flat, open, ideal for chariots, cavalry, and overwhelming numbers. The Persian king knows your strength lies in manoeuvre, in speed, in terrain. So he picks a field where none of that matters, where numbers alone might crush you. He brings a host that dwarfs your own. Accounts say over 200,000 men. Some say 500,000, perhaps even more. Elephants, scythed chariots, armoured cavalry from Bactria, foot soldiers from Babylon, Persian immortals in shimmering robes, columns of contingents from every corner of the empire. He has even levelled the battlefield, removing rocks and obstacles so his chariots can move unhindered. He believes this is where he will undo you. But you keep marching. You cross the Tigris carefully, slowly, ensuring supply lines stay intact, that your men remain fed, their armour clean, their minds steady. There is no panic, no rush, only readiness. You are days away from the battle that will decide the fate of the world. On the eve of Gaugamela, you allow yourself a moment of stillness. Your tent is quiet. The lamps flicker low. Outside, the murmurs of campfire songs drift in the wind. You sit alone, tracing the ridgelines of the battlefield in your mind. You do not pace. You do not speak. You know what must be done. You have faced impossible odds before, but this time, everything is larger, louder, final. You recall the path that brought you here, the long arc of your father's dream, the breath of Achilles over your shoulder, the weight of every city you've taken, the loyalty in the eyes of Hephaestion, Ptolemy, Cletus, and all the men who have stood beside you from Pella to the deserts of Siwa. You remember how your enemies doubted you because of your youth, how they called you lucky, rash, a shadow of Philip. Tomorrow they will see what you are. At dawn you rise. The day begins with stillness, no horns, no drums, only the distant banners of the Persian host moving in the light breeze. Their camp stretches to the horizon, lines of horses, chariots positioned in the front, archers behind, infantry in rows, Darius at the centre, seated high on a golden chariot beneath a sun-blazoned canopy. Your men assemble with calm precision. You place the companion cavalry, your elite, on your right. You will ride with them. You trust them with your life. The phalanx stretches across the centre, bristling with sarissas, long spears held in perfect formation. The left wing is commanded by Parmenion, the old general whose wisdom has steadied your campaign since the beginning. Reserve forces form a second line, flexible, mobile. You have studied every possible move. You are ready. Before the armies meet, omens are taken. The seers find favour in the entrails. The gods, they say, are with you, but you do not need signs. You have prepared not for divine intervention, but for reality. And when the signal is given, you move. You do not march directly into their centre. That would be suicide. Instead, you shift your right flank, diagonally, to the side. It appears as if you are wheeling away. The Persians respond. They mirror you, pulling their left further out to match your position, stretching their line thinner. Then you shift again, further, pulling them wider, diluting their strength. You bait them. Darius sends chariots forward, scythed monsters meant to cut through flesh and bone, but your troops know what to do. They part ranks, let the chariots pass, then close again, killing horses and drivers with spears and javelins. Others throw caltrops and stakes to disrupt their momentum before they arrive. The left wing under Parmenion comes under heavy attack. The Persian cavalry there pushes hard. For a moment it looks like collapse. Messages come to you pleading for reinforcement, but you do not flinch, because you see it. A gap in the Persian centre, created by their shift to follow your movement. Darius is exposed. You lead the charge. Your companion cavalry smashes into the Persian guard. You cut deep into the heart of their formation. You see Darius, high on his chariot. Your men are meters away. But then he turns. He flees. Again. His personal guard collapses. His army, watching their king disappear in a cloud of dust, begins to break. Some hold. The battle is not over. On your left, the fight is desperate. Parmenion sends word again. You dispatch reserves. The phalanx shifts. Orders echo across the field like thunder over dry earth. By nightfall, it is over. The Persian army dissolves. Tens of thousands lie dead or wounded. The road is clogged with broken carts, shattered shields, discarded armour. The air smells of sweat, blood, and trampled earth. Your army is exhausted, but you are victorious. You do not pursue Darius immediately. Your men need rest. The wounded need tending. You secure the battlefield. You capture the royal treasure, the wealth of an empire, horses, gold, jewels, weapons, tents adorned with silk and silver. The splendour of Persia now lies under your banners. When you finally give the order to move, you march not north, not back to Macedon, but south, deeper into the heart of the empire. You enter Babylon, the greatest city in the world. It opens its gates. The priests welcome you. The citizens cheer. The temples sing in your name. The ziggurats shine under torchlight. You perform rituals to Marduk, the chief deity. You are careful, respectful. You establish garrisons, but leave local customs untouched. You order repairs to damaged canals. You appoint satraps from both Macedonians and Persians, a signal that your rule is inclusive, not imposed. Then Susa falls. The administrative heart of the empire, another open gate, another treasury, immense wealth. Silver, gold, precious artifacts. Some of the treasures taken from Greece during Xerxes' invasion now return to you. You send them home to Athens, a symbolic reversal of ancient wrongs. From Susa, you advance toward Persepolis, the ceremonial capital. It does not surrender. You must take it. You fight through the Persian Gate, a mountain pass defended by Persian forces under Ariobarzanes. The narrow terrain favours them. For days your army struggles to break through. Finally, with guidance from locals and your scouts, you find a path around their flank. You encircle them. The resistance ends. Persepolis stands before you. You enter the city. It is magnificent. Marble halls, gold reliefs, carved columns, winged bulls of stone. The great Apadana rises like a palace of the gods. The air smells of cedar, frankincense, old power. You take the throne of Darius. You sit in the palace of Xerxes, and you burn it. Whether as revenge for the burning of Athens or to send a message to the world, you order the palaces torched. Fire rises into the night. Flames dance across carvings that took generations to craft. History turns to ash. You watch it happen, silently. The destruction is final. But your journey is not. Darius still lives. He flees eastward, seeking allies among the satraps of the highlands. Bactria, Sogdiana, lands beyond the Iranian plateau. He hopes to regroup, to raise another army. But his support is failing. His nobles no longer see him as strong. One by one they turn away. You pursue him, tireless, relentless, across deserts, over mountains. Your army begins to thin, men grow weary, supply lines stretch, but you do not stop. Then word comes, Darius is dead. Betrayed by his own, Bessus, a satrap of Bactria, seized him, imprisoned him, and stabbed him as your forces closed in. Your scouts find his body abandoned, mutilated, in a wagon. You halt. You look down at the man whose empire once reached from the Aegean to the Indus. You cover his corpse with your cloak. You send it back to Persepolis to be buried with honour in the royal tombs of his ancestors. You call yourself King of Asia now. But you know what that means? Not just a title, a responsibility. You must hold it, rule it, unite it. So you begin to transform. You adopt elements of Persian dress, a sash, a diadem. You preserve their court ceremonies, their customs. You encourage intermarriage. You begin training Persians for command. Your men do not all approve. But you're not trying to remain a Macedonian king. You're becoming something more. You're creating an empire of east and west, of gods and mortals, of conquest and vision. But shadows remain. Bessus, who betrayed Darius, flees further east into the lands of the Scythians. You will not tolerate rebellion. You pursue him. Your campaign continues. You ride past the edge of every map you studied as a boy. The world you knew is gone, but the one you are building has just begun to take shape. You ride eastward, far from the lush gardens of Babylon and the scorched palaces of Persepolis, deeper into the heartlands of an empire that no longer recognizes its king. Darius is gone. The great king of Persia, descended from the Achaemenids, lies dead in the dust of Bactria, betrayed by his own nobles. His death was not at your hand, but at the hands of those who feared your shadow more than they revered their sovereign. His body, scarred and discarded, was found in a wagon abandoned by his captors, and though his murderers sought your approval, you gave them none. You claimed the throne, but not through cruelty. You took his royal cloak and gave him a burial worthy of a king. You sent his body back to Persepolis, wrapped in silk and guarded with respect. For you understand now, more than ever, that conquest is not just a matter of arms. It is a matter of inheritance, and you have inherited a world. Bessus, the satrap of Bactria and one of Darius's betrayers, names himself Artaxerxes V. He attempts to rally the eastern satrapies under his name, but his claim is hollow. He does not possess your victories, your lineage, your momentum. He does not have the loyalty of men who would follow him to the ends of the earth. And so, once again, you pursue. The campaign across Central Asia becomes something else entirely. This is no longer a war of empire against empire. This is a war of attrition, of endurance, of sheer willpower. You chase Bessus through the mountains of modern-day Afghanistan, through steep passes and dry valleys, across rivers that have no names on the Greek maps. You divide your army into flying columns. You send trusted commanders, Hephaestion, Ptolemy, Conus, in flanking manoeuvres to trap him. You adopt the techniques of your enemies. You master the terrain as they do. And slowly, methodically, you close the net. The terrain shapes the army. You recruit local guides. You accept the service of Persian soldiers. You allow native satraps to keep their posts, so long as they swear loyalty. You do not rule by erasure. You rule by absorption. It is not always smooth. You face uprisings. You crush them. You face betrayal. You punish it. You take the city of Zariaspa. You establish a base of power in Bactria. When Bessus is finally caught, captured by his own men and handed over to you, you do not celebrate. You hold a formal trial. You demonstrate justice. Then, and only then, do you execute him. But the rebellion does not end there. Others rise in his place. Satibarzanes in Araya, Spitamines in Sogdiana, guerrilla fighters, cavalry raiders. You march against them too, riding through regions no Greek has seen. In the high passes and endless plains, your army is tested not just in battle but in resolve. You cross the Hindu Kush, a feat many thought impossible. Snow and wind batter your men. The path is narrow, the oxygen thin. Horses slip, soldiers freeze, supplies dwindle, but you do not stop. You drive them forward with speeches, with presence, with shared hardship. You march alongside them. You sleep on stone. You bleed as they bleed. In every city you take, you establish more than garrisons. You establish cities. Foundations that bear your name. Alexandria in Aria, Alexandria Eshat. the farthest. You spread Greek culture, but you do not destroy the local. You allow temples to stand. You adopt Persian dress, the diadem, the royal robes. You learn the etiquette of the Eastern court. You begin to see yourself not merely as a Greek conqueror, but as a unifier of worlds. Your vision expands, and with it, your distance from those who once called you their countrymen. Tensions begin to grow among your officers. They see your transformation with unease. You no longer dine only with Macedonians. You no longer address them with the informality of old. You adopt Persian rituals, proskinesis, the ceremonial bow. Some refuse to perform it. They believe you're becoming something other than a king. They whisper of hubris, of change. But you do not explain yourself. You understand what they do not, that empire cannot be ruled by nostalgia. It must evolve, and you are its centre. You marry Roxana, daughter of a noble Sogdian family. It is not merely a political gesture. You see in her intelligence, strength and dignity. She is not Macedonian. And that is precisely the point. Your generals grumble. They expected you to marry a Greek princess, but you marry for empire. You marry for symbolism. You marry for the world you are building, not the one you left behind. Even as you cement your control, conflict finds its way into your own inner circle. At a banquet in Maracanda, alcohol flows, tempers rise. Cletus the Black, a veteran commander, and the man who saved your life at Granicus, voices his anger. He resents your adoption of Persian customs. He speaks of your father, of how Philip achieved greatness without foreign robes. The air in the hall turns bitter. You are drunk, tired, surrounded by men who look at you with doubt. The tension builds. You lose control. You strike him down. When the wine fades and the rage is gone, the weight returns. Clytus lies dead by your hand. No enemy killed him. You did. You grieve. You isolate yourself. You fast. You do not speak for days. You understand, perhaps for the first time, that even kings cannot undo their actions. The empire continues. The map expands. But a piece of you remains in that hall, kneeling beside the body of a friend you can never bring back. Despite the cracks in unity, the campaign resumes. You lead a perilous operation across the Sirdaria River, defeating Spitamenes after months of running battles and ambushes. The rebellion collapses. Central Asia is pacified. You establish new administrative centres. You incorporate Persians, Bactrians, Sogdians into your bureaucracy and your army. You begin training a new unit, the Epigoni, young men from the east taught in Macedonian fashion. You are planting the seeds of a new elite, one that transcends birthplace or bloodline. But as your vision grows, so too does the distance between you and the army that brought you here. The Macedonians grow restless. They are tired of marching, tired of customs they do not understand, tired of seeing you surrounded by Persian courtiers and foreign advisors. At Opis, when you attempt to incorporate Eastern troops fully into your ranks, the Macedonians revolt. They refuse to follow your orders. They call you a traitor to your people. You respond not with punishment, but with heartbreak. You address them, not as king, not as god, but as the man who led them across Asia. You remind them of your shared battles, of the wounds you suffered, of the funerals you attended, of the victories you bled for together. You tell them they may go home, that you no longer need them, that your empire will continue without them. They break, they weep, they beg forgiveness. And you too are moved. You reconcile. You host a mass wedding at Susa. You and 80 of your generals marry Persian noblewomen. It is a moment meant to symbolize unity. East and West joined not just by conquest, but by family. The ceremony is grand. The music echoes through the halls. The brides are adorned in finery, their eyes uncertain but regal. You marry Roxana again, formally. Some embrace their new wives. Others do so reluctantly. But the message is clear. This is no longer a Greek army in Asia. This is an Asian empire with Greek roots. You begin preparations for your next campaign. Not westward, not homeward, but east again. Toward India, toward the lands beyond even the Persian imagination. Your scouts return with tales of vast rivers, rich kingdoms, elephants the size of towers. You study the terrain. You organize logistics. You know it will be the most difficult campaign yet. But you do not hesitate. Before leaving, you face one final betrayal. Philotas, son of Parmenion, one of your most trusted commanders, is accused of conspiracy. The evidence is murky, but in a world of absolute power, suspicion is enough. You have him executed. Then you order the death of his father, Parmenion, fearing revenge. It is a cold calculation, one that secures your command but erodes another piece of your soul. You're no longer the Prince of Macedon. You're not even the conqueror of Persia. You are Alexander, Basileus of Asia, lord of lands that stretch from the Danube to the Oxus. Your empire is unmatched, your name feared and revered, but you are increasingly alone atop the mountain you have built. And you are still not done climbing. You march east, past the edge of every scroll you read in childhood, past the knowledge of Aristotle, past the campaigns of Cyrus, past even the fading boundary stones of Darius's former dominion. The known world unravels behind you, and in front of you rises a land of water and mist, of thick forests and unfamiliar tongues, of rulers who do not tremble at your name, not yet. You're no longer just Alexander the Macedonian, nor the King of Kings. You're something else now, something unmoored from the inheritance of your past. You move through the Punjab, where the rivers run heavy and the rain falls not in mist but in waves. The monsoons greet your armour with a weight that turns metal to lead. Your men are exhausted, their limbs thick with mud, their eyes sunken from the years behind them. But still they follow, because you have become the axis of their belief. They no longer remember the taste of Macedonian olives or the feel of their wives' hands. They remember your voice, your eyes, the shape of your shadow before battle. You encounter resistance, organised, fierce, different from the wild resistance of the Sogdian hills or the desert ambushes of the Levant. Here, the rulers fight not to delay you, but to destroy you. Among them is King Porus of the Porava kingdom, tall, broad-shouldered, a commander of elephant armies. When he refuses to submit, you prepare for war. The battle of the Hydaspes begins beneath a grey sky, the river swollen with rain. You trick him. You feint upriver, cross during a storm, flank his position. The elephants charge, their tusks painted, their eyes wild. Your men hold. They had never fought beasts like this, towers of flesh and ivory. But discipline wins. The companion cavalry breaks through. The phalanx drives forward. The enemy line collapses. Porus is wounded, captured, brought before you. He does not beg. He does not cower. He is a king. You treat him with honour. You return his lands. You make him your ally. You do this not from sentiment, but from vision. You know what lies ahead. More rivers, more kingdoms. You cannot conquer them all by force. Some you must win by example. The Indian campaign continues. You reach the Hyphasis River. Beyond it lie the Nanda Empire and Magadha, immense, rich, unknown. But here your army halts. They refuse to go farther. The rain has not stopped. The jungle feels eternal. They are thousands of miles from home. They have fought for a decade. They kneel before you, not in rebellion, but in desperation. Their faces are not defiant. They are pleading. You see it in their silence, at the weight of time. You retreat. You are not defeated, but you yield to your men's will. You build 12 altars on the riverbank, monuments to the gods, to your victory, to the furthest reach of your ambition. Then you turn west. You do not take the easy route back. You decide to explore the southern coast, to map it, to integrate it. You split your forces, part by sea with Nearchus, part by land under your own command. You lead the march across the Gedrosian desert. It is a mistake. The land is cursed. Heat scalds the skin. Sand buries the path. Water disappears. Thousands die, from thirst, from exhaustion, from the weight of the march. No enemy touches you, but the desert wounds you all. You walk alongside the survivors. You do not ride. You bury the dead with your own hands. When you finally reach Persia again, your army is a shadow of what it was. In Babylon, the center of your empire, you begin to rebuild. You reorganize the satrapies. You reward loyalty. You punish corruption. You plan new cities, new ports, new roads. You send expeditions to Arabia, to Nubia, to the Caspian. You receive envoys from Carthage, from Rome, from distant tribes you had only heard of in fables. You begin to merge the administration of East and West. You commission a unified coinage. You train new officers, Persians and Greeks alike. You dream of further campaigns, Arabia next, then perhaps the western edges of Africa, or the mysterious lands north of the Danube. Your mind is never still. The empire is vast, but incomplete. You hold the ceremony of the Epigoni, the next generation of soldiers, trained in the Macedonian way, drawn from across your empire. 30,000 boys, their armour gleaming, their formation perfect. They salute you not in Greek, not in Persian, but in the universal gesture of loyalty. You look at them and see the future. Not a Greek future, not a Persian one, but something else. Something new. But the unity you envision does not sit easily with all. The old Macedonian elite resents your policies. They feel their privileges eroded. Some whisper, some conspire. You suppress dissent quietly, efficiently. You keep Hephaestion at your side, your closest friend, your mirror, the one who has stood beside you since boyhood. When he dies suddenly in Ecbatana, your grief is a wound no conquest can salve. You do not eat for days. You do not speak. You shave your head. You order an enormous funeral, pyres, statues, coins minted in his image. You declare him a hero, nearly divine. Some say you went mad with sorrow. But it was more than grief. It was the loss of part of your soul. After Hephaestion, you are not the same. You work harder. You sleep less. You drink more. You isolate yourself. You begin plans for one more campaign, Arabia, but your body begins to fail. In Babylon you fall ill. It begins with fever, then weakness. You try to rise, to speak, to give orders, but your limbs are heavy. Your voice falters. You call your commanders. You pass your ring to Perdiccas, but you name no clear successor. You say only that your empire should go to the strongest. Whether it was your final will or the ramblings of a man in fever, none can say for certain. The palace is quiet. Outside, soldiers file past your chamber one by one just to see you, just to look upon your face one last time. Some weep, some salute, some stand motionless, unable to speak. You're 32 years old. Your breath becomes shallow. Your vision dims. The oil lamps flicker. Somewhere, a lyre plays softly. You think of Pella, of Bucephalus, of Aristotle's lessons, of Granicus, of Issus, of the long march east, of the men you lost, of the cities you founded, of Hephaestion, of the child Roxana now carries in her womb, your only son. You do not fear death. You regret only that there is more world to conquer. Then you close your eyes, and the empire falls silent.